everybody, and welcome back to, I guess, episode 2 within the Tarkovsky Tuesdays episode.
We're back.
Wait, Tarkovsky Tuesday series. Yes.
Yeah. That's probably the best way to say that.
But speaking of episode numbers, it's funny how things shook out, because this just so happens to be episode 23. And for those of you who are familiar with the sports world, you might know that 23 is a pretty significant number, both in basketball and outside, because a lot of, well, I mean, it all goes back to Michael Jordan, you know?
Yeah, the GOAT.
Who many consider to be the GOAT, except, you know, Shannon Sharp and,
Yeah, and
half the league right now.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor
They're
there.
just glazing.
So I think it's both interesting and fitting that Stalker, our second episode of the Tarkovsky Tuesdays series, is episode 23, because this is Mason's GOAT movie.
We will, in my opinion, we will never do a better movie on this podcast. I'm just gonna say that right now.
And you know what? That's just fine. Mason's gonna be in his fanboy glazing bag, because
I am. I mean, they thought Tree of Life was glazing. This is a whole nother level. Okay, this is gonna be bad.
Now I will say that I think, you know, having had some time removed from watching Tree of Life, I can see myself really enjoying it on future rewatches.
Let's go, baby. Let's go.
However, there are still things that I have a few reservations about. On the contrary, Stalker is a film that
Great segue.
I feel that there are very few, if any, issues with.
There are no issues.
You could quite easily call this a perfect movie. On my Letterboxd, I have a list of my top 100 films, and this is number 1, and it has been for a long time. There's only 2 or 3 movies that can even compete with this, and one of those is Andrei Rublev, which we just did. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go listen to it. I recommend watching the movie first, and then
and one of the other ones is
next time you have your wisdom teeth taken out, or you break your foot, or you get sick. And actually, I got sick, and I watched Andrei Rublev, but you have to carve out a chunk of time to watch that movie, because it is, and count it, 3 hours long.
And this isn't short.
It's not short.
It's not nearly as long, but it's not short. But yeah, there's only probably 3 movies that can compete with this one for my top spot, and one of those is Rublev, and one of those is Tarkovsky's last film, which we will do here in a little bit. And I would say the one that is in second place and that might be better than this is 2001. Because I do think that's a perfect movie.
Yeah.
But
it's great.
This is still this is more meaningful and impactful to me, and it speaks to me more. I don't know if it's quite the achievement that 2001 is, although they're right there neck and neck. So
Stalker's interesting.
Interesting in Tarkovsky's filmography.
Certainly. There's a lot to get into.
Definitely, yeah.
I think the first thing is, well, I'll set the scene.
Yeah.
Mason and I watched this. Oh, gosh. I got to check Letterboxd. I don't remember what month it is.
I'm on Letterboxd.
I do want to preface by saying
December 6th.
December 6th. So it's been 6 square months, all right?
Yep.
Granted, we started the movie at about 8:30 at night. I think it was a Friday night.
Yeah.
So we
started at like 9.
We had just
it was late.
We had school. It was a school day. And I was tired.
Yeah, you were really. I didn't have much that day, but I remember you were like really tired. And I was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Like,
I didn't quite doze, but like I was fighting to stay awake. And a lot of fans will actually tell you that is Tarkovsky's intention, to sort of put you into a trance-like state, because a
lot of people believe
similar
that.
to Andrei Rublev, there is a clear distinction
in both location and style and how he, I guess, chooses to show the film. I don't know how to put it better than that, but like
how he presents it.
Yeah, how it's presented and aesthetically, I guess. If you want to get into that and sort of set the scene for people and talk about.
Well, yeah, I will also say I feel like this movie is really important to me because I can't really necessarily say it's the first art house film I ever watched. But it's definitely the first like challenging film that I watched, and I was confused. And I remember I watched it because the poster was cool.
As one does.
And this was my first like. This is when I was just kind of getting into film. I was dipping my toes, and I didn't know who Tarkovsky was. I didn't know. Didn't know anything about this film, and I watched it, and I remember it ended, and I was disappointed.
You gave it an 8, right?
I did give it an 8 the first time because I recognized that it looked amazing, but I didn't understand it.
Well, I mean,
and I didn't see the vision. And
we'll talk about this a little bit more, but just I wanted to let people know we are watching. We have the film on in the background muted.
Yeah,
the picture alone is like breathtaking.
Yeah,
it some of the best shots.
And I will also say
date, like,
I did watch it on formerly what was HBO Max, which is Max now, and I don't think it looked quite this good because this is the 4K restored
I was
criterion.
Say, that was maybe 720p, 1080p.
Like, yeah, I think it was like
you also watch it on your laptop, right?
No, that was Rublev. That was Rublev. Yeah.
See, that's crazy.
Yeah. But that's because actually I can't exactly remember why that was, but I think we were at the MTSU dorms and it just wasn't loading like on my TV.
Gotcha.
And I was itching to watch it. Like I had already gotten 20 minutes in and I was like, I gotta finish it.
Stalker?
No, Rublev.
Rublev. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. No, this
not a whole lot happens in the first 20 minutes. So.
Yeah, no, I vividly remember watching this in my basement at my house, and it was a very good sized TV, and it dipped my toes into like maybe film could be more than like entertainment. You know,
actually,
it really like
I can say from experience. I can't remember quite when it was. It was either. I think it was
remember
like
when you tried to watch it.
The day before winter break of 2023 ended, or the day before summer break of 2023 ended, and I started Stalker at 9 o'clock.
I was begging you to watch it.
I started at 9 o'clock p.m.
Yeah,
I got 20 minutes in. I was like, I'm not doing this.
And I think that's just a testament to the film because Tarkovsky is known as.
I mean, we've talked about this.
The sleep guy. You know, he will make you go to sleep.
Flying Lotus has a fantastic quote.
His films are so sleepy, but this film in particular, it really is kind of the charm of the film. You know, it's like it's so transcendental and it's so mesmerizing and like psychedelic at times that
it sort of lures you in, or like you feel it's almost like quicksand, where you feel like you're sort of being absorbed into the movie.
And I've seen it 5 or 6 times, and every time, like, there's a point in the film where you kind of get a little, like, your eyelids get a little heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
And once we got into the zone, I was like, I was a little tired, and like I remember some scenes when the characters were in the zone where I was like trying to stay awake, you know. I was fighting it. But it was mostly when they were getting there. I was like,
it's I'm not going to be the person that's over here glazing so hard saying it was Tarkovsky's intention for you to fall asleep. Okay?
But I think it's an interesting argument.
But could I see that maybe happening? Yes, I could actually.
Cuz I think there's
it's Okay. So do we want to? You want me to give like a little synopsis about the film, or do we want to talk about like because I think the shooting of the film is really interesting.
Yeah, let's talk about that, and then I can sort of talk about how.
Okay.
I'll loop around back to the idea of dreams and how it's portrayed with the use of color.
Okay. So this is Tarkovsky's fifth.
Okay. Solaris, and then this.
Mirror than this.
Wait, what?
So it's Ivan's,
Rublev,
Solaris, Mirror.
Mirror was that early.
Mirror was 75. This is 79.
The fact that Mirror is 75 is crazy.
Yeah. So this is
that like the fact that that's not late stage Tarkovsky and he made that. Like that was in his brain.
11 years before Sacrifice.
That's incredible.
and honestly, I mean, we'll get to this in a second. Sacrifice wasn't supposed to be late stage either. If he hadn't have died from shooting this film, little. But yeah, so this is his fifth film. It was 1979. It's loosely based on the Strugatsky novel Roadside Picnic that was written in 1972. So the novel had not been out long, and he wrote it in collaboration with the authors of the novel, which I think is kind of cool.
Interesting.
But then he like goes off and it's like very different. The production is infamous for a multitude of reasons. The first problem was they basically had to shoot the movie twice, which is insane, There's a lot of theories and conspiracies about people trying to sabotage Tarkovsky. The biggest thing is the original cinematographer had messed up some things, and when they went to process the film, the negatives came back, and it was just all messed up. Mm-hmm. It was like all green.
Yeah.
Like just the whole film was green. And Tarkovsky was like just devastated. So him and his cinematographer Rurberg, they parted ways.
Wow.
So this was the guy that had shot Mirror.
The original cut probably looks different.
Well, yeah, and this is a great cinematographer, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy shot like almost all of his movies, I think. So he got a new cinematographer, reshot the whole film, and apparently the plot and the just everything was,
so along with
is
reshoots,
different.
there are rewrites.
Yeah. Apparently the second cut is a lot different, and the first cut has been burned. So we will never see it. We don't know what it was.
The Tarkovsky iceberg is crazy.
And then the other thing that's just absolutely devastating and gives this film even just more meaning is that because of this production, they shot this at 2 abandoned hydropower plants in Estonia, and a lot of them got radiation and died after.
Like nuclear fallout.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which that includes Tarkovsky's wife, the main sound guy, multiple actors, and a lot of other crew members. All died from this shoot.
And now I don't know if this is exactly what it is, but there is very much a haze in the air, and
some of that's a fog machine, but a lot of it's not.
Just like,
it's just like stuff
particles
in the air.
that almost look like spores or something.
Stuff in the water.
Oh yeah,
it's really like I mean,
the water has a layer of film on it. Like it's just you can tell that it really, honestly, it's a really nice production touch. It aids the sense of surrealism and like
it's
wonder,
one of the most,
I guess,
it's one of the most beautiful shoots, because if you read some articles about this, almost all of this is real. I mean, this is not production design. Mm-hmm. This is just they went into an abandoned power plant and they shot this.
Yeah,
and it looks amazing, but the cost that came from that is crazy.
And did they know?
No.
Okay.
They didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they would have done it.
Probably.
But yeah, I mean, like all these beautiful landscapes were just covered in hazardous and poisonous air.
Mm-hmm. Want to talk about the first couple scenes in the journey into the zone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is not like Rublev. This is not going to take long for me to explain the plot of this film. It is like a one sentence.
I was going to say, for a Tarkovsky movie, this plot is extremely concise, and like you can give a log line pretty easily.
Yeah, it's basically a man known as Stalker, played by Alexander Kadanovsky, which we can talk about him in a second. I think it's like one of the best Tarkovsky performances in any of his films. But he his job is to kind of guide citizens through a heavily guarded area known as the Zone. And the goal of going through the Zone is to make it to a place called the Room, where if you get to the Room, it will grant you your deepest, innermost desires. And the Stalker knows his way through the Zone because of a former mentor who he learned a lot from. And
Porcupine, right?
But yeah, and
Okay.
basically he takes these two guys. One of them's the writer, and one of them is the scientist.
Yeah.
And the whole film is them getting into the Zone and them making the journey to try to get to the Room. And that's really it. It's the Stalker, it's the writer, and the scientist, and they converse, and they get to know each other more, and they're just trying to make it to the Room. So,
Do we want to talk about what's inside the room, or is
pretty
that
simple?
Do we want to wait on that?
Well, I just said that it grants a person their innermost desires.
Gotcha, yeah.
That's really all it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's nothing really
Pretty
in
cut and
there.
dry.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a cool sci-fi
Yeah.
thing.
So the opening sequence, well, when the credits roll, they're in a bar, right?
Yeah.
Who's there?
Stalker, writer, scientist, and there's a guy that's making drinks. I
So
think.
it's not quite in chronological order.
And then there's a dog. I think the dog is there.
Okay. Where does that take place? Like, when does that take place, rather?
That's when he's trying to gather them. I think.
Okay. So this is before the first scene, proper scene.
Yes,
Okay.
I think.
So the first proper scene. Do you wanna?
Yeah. Okay. So they're just in a bar,
Yeah.
and oh no, excuse me, no, it's just the
Stalker.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that
He's
makes
just in the
sense.
bar. That
Yeah.
makes more sense. Yeah. And then the credits end, and it cuts to this scene. If you wanna.
You got it.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna relinquish a lot of this to you because you know this
Okay,
film
no.
way better.
I thought that you wanted to talk about
Absolutely
it. But
not,
I
no.
will. So the first scene is, I mean, I don't want to say it. It's probably his best opening scene,
How long before the cut?
in my opinion. I think it's about 12, 15 minutes.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the first shot is north of 10 minutes, and it's the Stalker sleeping with his daughter and wife. They're all in the same bed, and it's just
Asleep with.
yes.
Yeah.
Wait, what did I say? Did I say sleeping?
I mean, I thought I cleared
come
things
on,
up.
man.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Just for anybody.
Asleep with.
Yeah, not getting the wrong picture.
Don't come on, guys. This ain't that movie. This is
No.
not your.
No, it's Tarkovsky. You're not gonna get any of that.
So it's the first shot is just the camera going through doors takes a really long time, and we see
Heavy on a really long time.
Yeah, I mean, this will test the best of them. Okay, this is not, and we get a shot of a bedside table, and there's a glass. There's
Like a cotton
a
swab.
syringe.
Yeah.
There's a cotton swab, a napkin,
Pills.
and an apple
Mm-hmm.
that's bitten out of. Okay, so obviously, a lot of
Yeah.
biblical things
Uh-huh.
there with the apple. It's-
Yeah, and substances.
and,
yeah.
and medicine and things that kind of help.
Well, yeah, could be medicine, could be like
Well, there's also
substance
pills.
abuse, yeah,
There's
uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like things that could help someone get through just the regular world and
or
stuff.
it could represent vices. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
okay, yeah.
To help people
But it also could be like an antidote.
get through.
Depending
yeah,
on
it
how
could
you
be
look at it, yeah,
it could be
yeah.
a good or a bad.
I don't know what he intended.
And then we see we hear the house shaking and we see it
Polar
and-
Express style.
and we see exactly. And we see a glass moving across the table, and then we hear a train. Which
Robert Zemeckis actually inspired
We-
Tarkovsky to make this movie.
Robert Zemeckis is in this film now.
Robert Zemeckis wrote what's the book called?
Roadside Picnic.
Roadside Picnic. Yeah.
Forget about Strugatsky. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. So, basically, yeah, we just see this overhead shot of all these items on this bedside table. And to me, that's kind of the foreshadowing for the whole film. You know, we later see a syringe. We later see drugs and guns, and he talks about kind of losing hope in the world, which, if you haven't noticed by now, is a big theme in Tarkovsky's films.
Yeah. Everybody, if you've got your Tarkovsky bingo cards with you, you can cross the society box now.
You can cross off water, too.
Yeah.
Because at this point, we've already seen water.
Uh-huh.
I don't even know where, but we probably have. And then... So, yeah, the stalker just...
The train,
I
train
mean,
in the glass.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like I was saying, we see a glass moving, and we hear a train. But in our minds, we're not sure if the glass is moving because the stalker's looking at it, or if the glass is moving because the train.
Yeah,
is
so the
passing by.
camera, we hear the train getting louder and louder, and the glass is slowly
But the glass is
shifting
already
to
moving
the side
at
of the
that
table.
point.
Yeah,
it's a
and
little.
The camera slowly pans back. Mind you, it hasn't cut yet. Slowly pans back to the stalker, and it takes like 15 seconds.
Slowly. Oh, it's more than 15 seconds.
And we see him just staring at the glass. And we kind of write it off because this is the first thing in the movie that we've seen. So we just
also, yeah, you're not supposed to know what that means.
we assume it's just the train. We're not going to go through every scene like this. But it's only because
the opening and closing is kind of important.
So I guess we can pick it up now that we've talked about the first scene.
Yeah, so basically, the only other things that we need to know about the first 20 or 30 minutes, the opening, is important to note that the film is in sepia. Like, it's just in this kind of yellow, brownish color.
Almost a black and white, but a little bit,
a little bit more dirty and yellow.
In many ways, it looks like an old photograph. Like a not like a printout photograph that you would have from a relative from the early 20th century. Because those weren't true black and white. Those they had some, character, and I don't know if it's dirt or dust or just like the color of the ink, but
it does
it's
actually
not a true
look
black
like
and white. So I do think that it's
it's not black and white. It is the official term is sepia.
Yeah,
like it's
which is a nice touch.
Yeah, it's very nice. So we see the stalker put his pants on.
Yeah,
but no. So the stalker.
What do you think that means when he puts his pants on?
We're not gonna go there. The stalker recruits this writer and scientist, and they have already said they want to go into the zone. Okay, so he is taking this journey into the zone with them, and there's some hijinks, and they have to get in a vehicle.
Some sleuthing,
and basically they get through a gate.
It's basically just some Metal Gear stealth mission, and then
and they get on a little mine train. I don't know what, like a little dog.
A mine cart, something,
little cart. And
the noise is pretty crazy.
And we hear the
actually the noise is like important though, because that helps like with the transition, right, from sepia to.
Yeah, are you talking about the like phone cables, the brown?
Yeah.
Yeah,
sorry. That's not the minecart then. That's different. Yeah. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah. So this is probably my favorite film. It's probably my favorite Tarkovsky. In large part.
Well, you can't say probably.
In large part.
This is my favorite movie, favorite director, favorite.
In large part due to the sound design. I mean, this is if there's one problem with Rublev, it's technically it's a little bit hairy in places. Like the Foley and stuff, it's just not a big budget.
Mixing, the ADR.
Yeah. This
pristine.
Feels like his last movie. It's very pristine, and the sound design is almost like
excellent.
Lynchian,
Yeah,
or like almost from like a Glazer. It feels like that kind of.
It's almost it's avant-garde. You could say
it's avant-garde. It's a lot of it's non-diegetic. It just feels like there's kind of like space.
It's really
on.
It's not going for realism at all. It's atmosphere.
It's putting you into
the zone.
So let's talk
about the zone.
Let's do it.
And this is to circle back after Mason explains it. This is what I was referring to when I'm talking about the dream state. Is that there is sort of a shifted plane of being and existence that exists with it inside the zone. That's different from the sepia-colored real world. If
The
you put
zone
that in
is
air quotes.
a different world.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to distinguish this.
Well, how does Tarkovsky distinguish it?
The zone is in full color.
And it looks so good.
It's really good.
So he pulls another
Really,
Rublev,
really, really
but like 25 minutes into the film.
Yes.
And so
he really likes doing that, by the way. If you
the
haven't
effect that
noticed.
some people allude to is that your dream is in color. You know, when you as the viewer are sort of lulled into this world, and when you wake up, it's in full color and everything is super rich, and there's a ton of surrealism, and we'll get into the plot details of almost. I mean, I don't want to say like Lovecraftian, but like because that's not at all the aesthetic, but
Yeah.
just a very pervading thought of like the unknown and what exactly is, you know, in play.
And I think that
Or is there anything going on?
I think that a lot of it's in color do also because we're really with the Stalker character, and it's his perspective. And I love that when they get into the zone, he says, "Here we are, home at last." This isn't a different world to him. This is his home,
Yeah.
and that's when we start getting into
Interesting how he distinguishes that at his home when he was literally just in his
with
bed with his family.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's where we get.
We can also come back to that as, you know,
We start seeing that, like him being.
when we talk about the room, we can also talk about, you know, how people find fulfillment in life and,
Yes.
you know, where
Yes.
they're
This is, for me, like the allegory for religion and stuff starts here. This is kind of his heaven,
yeah.
and I think that he will do anything to get to this place because it makes him feel important and it makes him feel like he's doing something in the world, like guiding these people, you know.
I think it's so interesting that he feels a sense of purpose doing this, but it's without his family, and then it's
Exactly.
ultimately a self-focused exploit. You know, as much as it might be like altruistic, and he does feel like he's helping other people, and he is.
I think the Stalker character he's almost a Christ-like figure. He's not Jesus because he's flawed.
No.
But he's almost a Christ-like figure, and
Definitely.
his home is the zone. I mean, it's very
Yeah.
heaven-esque.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's just like, and
Actually, no. I would argue. I would argue that that monkey is a Christ figure.
well, yeah, she
Because
also
she is from the zone.
She also is. Yeah, she's from the zone.
Yeah.
But she comes to us from the Stalker though. So it's almost like a lineage thing. Like, I feel like they're both kind of.
Okay, but if we're going with the allegory here, though, I think that would make, even though the Stalker's flawed, that would make him more of a god figure, right? Because he's.
Yes, well, kind of.
We'll get into this more,
Kind of,
and
yeah.
I've said that like 70 times, but
Well,
he's
see,
continually disappointed.
Now
with,
wait a second. Now.
Okay, yeah.
No, go ahead.
Well, there's one of the main themes is that
He's disappointed.
yeah,
in
he's disappointed
the other two,
in
and-
humanity's lack of faith,
There's.
which
It,
I wanted to.
come on.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I want to.
Also, I will say this quickly. This is something I had in my notes, and we have it paused up here with this. The very first thing we see in color is a telephone pole. Now, this might be a reach, but to me, it's not. That is in the shape of a cross.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just now noticed that before you even said it. Yeah.
And this is this is the foreshadowing that we are about to witness a theological and philosophical journey. Okay.
Yeah.
This is.
Oh yeah.
This is him saying,
this is an allegory. This is all about religion. This is all about society and our purpose in the world, and how can you have a purpose without like God and Christianity and stuff. I mean, that's what
Tarkovsky's message, yeah.
And that's like, and we see that in Rublev too.
Because really, I think when you're talking Tarkovsky, religion and society and art are all intertwined. You can't separate them. They're one and the same, really, for him. And it's so evident in all of his movies. But I'd say if you were to make a main three, it'd be this, Rublev, and maybe Mirror, maybe The Sacrifice.
I would say
probably Sacrifice. Yeah.
But the Mirror is pretty religious though.
Yeah.
It's not as
not
religious
quite as
because it's just biographical almost.
Yeah.
But quickly, I feel like this is gonna be a long episode. Quickly going back to the symbolism for God. I have in my notes here. Last time I watched, or a couple times.
If you want to take a quick aside and tell folks, what you did to prepare for this, not inadvertently, I guess.
Yeah. I had forgotten that for one of my film classes, I wrote my term paper on this film.
This man's a scholar
and
on Stalker. Okay?
I wish.
A 4-page paper, 12 pages of notes.
Yeah, I have a lot of notes, but in my notes about symbolism, I have that the dog could be representative of God.
Interesting.
Because he follows us and the characters out of the zone. But he originates in the zone. The first time we see him is in the zone. So he's kind of like always with us, but he's almost in the like heavenly realm or like kind of that state.
Yeah.
Also, the dog is just so important. Like, just because Tarkovsky loves dogs. I'm not a big dog guy myself. But
Nope. Neither of us are. That's
we
that's our
won't
hot take
go
for the
there.
day. Yeah.
But yeah, okay. I don't know where you want to go next.
I guess
because now it's just a huge chunk of it's 2 hours of.
We can talk about some of the quotes. We can talk about
quotes, and
I think we should definitely hit on, the like I mentioned before, the forces at play, or when I guess how the Stalker cautiously navigates the zone, and what he tells both the scientist and the writer will happen if they don't basically obey his instructions.
Very religious.
Yeah.
I mean, just you explaining that is like, oh, that's Christianity.
Yeah.
Or just any religion, really. It's like, and it's...
And granted, well, okay, it's so genius. So it really, as a viewer, it's strange to watch because with the use of sound, with the very few cuts, there's not a whole lot of drama that's built into making the stakes feel high, that if these characters mess up, they'll perish or die.
No, it's never
really
like that.
You're just kind of watching the Stalker tell them and explain all these bad things that'll happen if they don't follow his instructions.
Yeah, the only thing that is a little weird, at least on my first couple watches, was, I think towards the beginning of the journey, at least, you're wondering, is like, and the writer and scientists are wondering as well, is the Stalker like legit? It seems like he's making this stuff up.
Yes.
They're tying paper to
and so you're
metal nuts, and they have to throw them, and there's all these weird instructions, and
you're questioning his legitimacy like the whole time, and you as a viewer, at least for me,
which
I was wondering, I was like, dude, I don't think a single thing would happen if they didn't listen to what he was saying.
Yeah.
And I think pretty intentionally, we are never given a reason to believe either way. Like, we're never shown none of the characters are explicitly punished for stepping out of line.
Yeah, we don't know if the writer and scientist would ever gotten hurt, but we also don't know if the stalker is legit or if he's making this up. I mean, at times you're like, this guy just wants to go to this place. He's making all this up. And he could also just be like stealing their money.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a grift, sort of.
Yeah. It's
part
weird.
of it feels like he's
weird.
like a con artist of some sort.
But it's one of those things where it's like, to me, that kind of like symbolizes like they have to like take a leap of faith and they have to trust him. And again, that's very religious. And
I think another thing is like how dogged the stalker is in his beliefs. That like it might appear to the scientist and the writer
that it's just an area.
But for this, like he is so serious about it.
And and a big thing to him is respect. And you have to respect this place. You have to respect this zone and this area, and they kind of like laugh at him, you know, and they think that's really silly.
There's a certain reverence that you need to approach with it because it's very dangerous if you don't. But it's so interesting because we never, you know, no Monty Python style deaths.
No, there's really there's the one time where I think it's the. I might have to check on this. I think it's the here it is. It's Rublev's character. It's the writer. He's like screw this. Like I'm just gonna go walk off. Yeah. And he does, and it gets avant-garde. It gets weird, and then he's like, I'm not doing that. I'm walking back. So that kind of makes you believe like, okay, maybe the stalker is like legit.
And of course, you know, looking at that from the perspective of like a biblical allegory, there's a lot to take from that as far as like people prioritizing their own, I guess, journey or will.
Yeah, exactly. And not wanting to
path,
follow.
You know?
And also in this area of the zone, we see tanks and skeletons and other war zones, which I think represent, you know, like human wars and stuff, or like wars dealing
humans'
with
tendency
religion.
towards evil without
and
like
this
this
is a sacred place, and there was obviously a war here. Yeah, you know, which is that still happens today. People fighting over sacred places.
Yes, and I mean, if you wanted to, you could also look at it as like evil existing within a sacred place. Which is just basically Genesis 1, you know, or
there's evil
being
like
cast
everywhere.
out.
The stalker states that the zone is a death trap. Safe ways become impassable. It becomes confusing, just like the world we live in. I mean, that's what he says. Yeah. I mean, that's just like incredible stuff, you know. This is also where we first hear about Porcupine, which is one of the most important things in this film in terms of the stalker's character and kind of the allegory for the story. So Porcupine was the stalker's mentor. He was like the original stalker, and he taught our new stalker like everything to do and how to get to places and stuff. And it's later shared that look, we're in part 2.
I just noticed that the color changed with part 2 when is that the writer goes off on his own way?
No, that's the stalker right there.
Oh, that's the stalker. Sorry.
Yeah, but then it goes back.
Yeah, gotcha.
It's like just a little.
Okay.
But yeah, we learned that Porcupine or the original stalker went into the room one time, and again, this grants your innermost, deepest desires. And his brother had died, and he was going on a journey to the room to bring his brother back to life, and instead, people saw him left with a large sum of money, and he later kills himself. Yeah. I mean, come on. This is like... And that's just a thing where it's like...
It's an excellent...
Do we know our innermost
It's
desires?
an excellent
really
analysis or rhetorical question posed about our subconscious and what we as people say we want versus what we actually desire. And I guess maybe Tarkovsky's floating the idea that our desires may be a little bit more
unknown to us.
Yeah, sinister and self-interested than we might want to admit.
And it's also one of those things where it's like, you know, you could lie to people about your desires, and then like internally you're like, I know what I really want, but do you actually?
I mean, and on top,
So
like,
you're actually there.
you know, to support the idea of the dream state, that's basically exclusively the subconscious mind, you know? That's
That's
everything.
transcendental.
Yeah, And transcendentalism, we talked about this, you know, the philosophy, you know, with the climbing the mountain and reaching the top as a changed individual because of what you experienced. There's very much this sense in this movie and Rublev and pretty much all of his movies. I think he's very interested in the idea of transcendentalism.
Yep.
And that idea extends into other mediums of art as well. You know, music. In my theory class, we talked about transcendentalism as it relates to Beethoven's Third, and you know, Beethoven flirted with transcendentalism. we do get some Beethoven later, so it ties in.
End.
It ties in, and I actually wrote this down. I wanted to talk about it. The through lines between Tarkovsky's movies. There's, you know, Beethoven repetitively, or twice, I guess, but it's the ninth both times. He's very Tarkovsky's very interested by the ninth. I don't know if it's the finality of like it's his last work. It's the last movement of his last big work. Beethoven's sort of a tragic character. Especially once he started losing his hearing, like his life was very sad, and he was. I mean, if you read his, I'm gonna butcher the name. I think it's Heiligenstadt Testament. We talked about that.
Yeah, where he writes to his brother
about like his mental state. He was like not doing well.
No, not there. Yeah,
but I think Tarkovsky views him as sort of a tragic character and almost maybe someone who he can relate to. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, he uses the ending excerpt of Beethoven 9, which has, you know, been later titled as Ode to Joy. I don't know if he, I don't know if he's doing that dramatically to like juxtapose it, you know, because it's the ending and like especially the context in Nostalgia 2 when he uses it. That's during a self-immolation.
That's,
and that's
way
everything
darker.
But joyful.
I mean, the ending of this could be seen as joyful, maybe.
Yeah.
Nostalgia, no way. I mean, that's...
I don't know if it's like as on the nose as like, oh, the title says joy, so I'm going to show something that's not joyful, or if it's deeper than that. But I do think, you know, transcendentalism and Tarkovsky, you know, that it's...
hand in hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to discuss is the notion of sacrifice. Now, Tarkovsky actually has an entire film with the title called The Sacrifice. But this is something that he's also pretty obsessed with. The idea of, well, I guess the question of what are you willing to give up for what you desire? Or in the sacrifice's case, what will you do to
Save
rescue
your family?
Yeah, or rescue a world that's, you know, headed on in the decline, like
into a very non-secular,
Uh-huh.
or a very, secular.
An increasingly secularized world. Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely the thought of sacrifice as we enter the zone. We'll
Yes, yeah, that definitely.
I just wanted to, you know, put that on people's minds before we talk about it. But
so we're actually like watching the film again, like in the background, and like at this point we have gotten to part 2, and and part 2 is much more avant-garde.
Mm-hmm.
It starts getting weird.
Yeah.
There, and this is the Stalker says that I'll pause it up on the screen, but I have the quote here. When a man is born, he is soft and pliable. When he dies, he is hard and strong. Hardness and strength are companions of death.
Mm.
I mean that is just
just
unheard of writing. I mean that's stuff where it's like I'm gonna be thinking about that like 2 weeks later, you know. And then we get this incredible, like, depends on how long you want to call a scene, but it's probably about 20 or 30 minutes, which is some of my favorite part. It's like kind of my favorite part of the movie, where the like temporal and spacious constructs are kind of blown up, and we don't really understand what's going on because I believe it's the scientist that's like, oh, I left my like bag and like I need to go backwards, and the Stalker's like, you can't do that, we have to go forward. And they're like throwing the nuts and stuff to like let them know where they've been. So then like the scientist just kind of like disappears. We don't really know where he's been, and we see the Stalker and Ryder like go through this waterfall and stuff, and then like 5 minutes later they just walk out a tunnel, and the scientist is just sitting like to the side, and we see a metal nut hanging, and it's like, how is there a metal nut hanging? No one's been there.
Yeah.
And also, where did the scientist come from? And then they like lay down to take a nap, and then we get some like crazy shots.
You can also tell that they're getting like increasingly lethargic.
Yep.
Like
and it's getting more psychedelic as it gets closer.
Their
to
motion is very labored, and you can tell that like it's physically exhausting, and that's why they have to lie down, because moving through the zone is extremely taxing on the body.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough,
here we go.
oh, that's back to the.
It cuts back. Yeah. So they lay down.
Yeah.
And it cuts to the Stalker. Well, we see the dog first.
Yeah.
For the first time, I believe. We see a dog. And at this point, it's very Lynchian. We're kind of in a dream state. We're not totally sure if this is a dream, though. But it cuts to the Stalker in sepia color. And then it cuts back to color. And he's talking. And then it cuts back and forth and back and forth. And then we see needles and paper.
That's a bullet shell, I think.
And guns and stuff in the water, which I feel like represent like kind of the evils of the world in a lot of ways. And
I also think it's interesting that often in Tarkovsky's movies, the evil is depicted under something. You know, it's usually not on the surface. It's usually underwater.
It's very Lynchian.
Yeah.
You know, you think of Blue Velvet, it's like
Lynchian.
There's some underground kind of evil stuff going on, like in
or
just
even
in
just
American
the subconscious.
suburbs. Yeah. Also, yeah.
But yeah, Lynch likes to. There was a quote that he talked about that he can tell a story on the surface, but he can use physical, tangible things to represent or to serve as an abstract for an idea.
Yep.
And I think that's something that Tarkovsky does very well and often.
So then the writer talks about how if he is granted his innermost desires, maybe he won't be able to write. Because maybe hard situations are what creativeness comes from.
Can we talk about his monologue? Or am I jumping the gun here?
Which is,
where
what about the music stuff?
Yeah, or just where he says that he doesn't want to write, or he doesn't have a desire to write, that it's super laborious and...
Oh, like you talking about later?
I guess that is
well,
later.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay.
But I was just going to say, he talks about, like, good art comes from hard situations.
Yeah.
And that just immediately makes me think of Rublev.
Yeah.
You know, and then he says that we exist in order to, and then it cuts. And then he talks about like hating science and technology. And then again we cut to sepia color. It's this back and forth. We don't know what's going on. We don't know if this is a dream. We don't know if this is real. And then an unnamed voice that sounds like a child, could be Monkey,
Yeah.
reads word for word a quote from Revelation 6:12. That's talking about the opening of the sixth seal. And then the child begins to giggle and laugh, and then that ends. And it's quite confusing.
Yeah.
But yeah, here we go. We get a long shot of the water in the CB color, and we see money, needle, a Christ painting, a rusted gun, a rusted spring, and a part of a glass bottle. And there's just so much, like...
Yeah, vices and spring.
Yeah.
You can think of it as, like, technology.
A Christ painting?
Yeah,
like, dude, what?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There's so much there. And then the Stalker recites a passage from the book of Luke about the passage to Emmaus. It can be implied that the two figures in the Bible are represented by the writer and the professor. If you listen to the passage and stuff. But then, after all this, we cut back to color, and this whole sequence is over.
Yeah.
You know, we're back, and they're awake. There's the gun, and then we get maybe the best quote to me from the whole film, which is the Stalker begins to talk about art and music. And I'll just go ahead and read it real quick. Music is connected least of all with reality. It is merely empty sounds with associations. Nevertheless, music miraculously penetrates your very soul. What chord in us responds to its harmonies, transforming it into a source of delight, uniting us and shattering us? Why is all of this necessary? For whom? You'll reply, for no one, for no reason. I doubt that.
Yeah.
It's incredible, you know, and
you know,
I just I really feel like that's true, and that really like speaks to me because I feel like using music in that kind of monologue is perfect.
And that also is just another example of like Tarkovsky repeatedly questioning the purpose of art in life. And
who is it for? What is it for?
Yeah, what is its purpose?
How does good art come about? Like,
yeah,
all of that. His relationship with art and society and religion that's kind of like the trifecta.
I don't know if he himself believes that he has the answer or if he's just posing the question.
Yeah,
I think
he's a little bit.
I think he feels, he feels very strongly that it is important. Like, what's the last line of the quote?
Why is all this necessary? For whom? You'll reply, for no one, for no reason. I doubt that.
So he says, I doubt that.
Yeah.
I don't know if he can exactly explain why, but I just think he feels that way.
No, and I think that the Stalker there is Tarkovsky. He's saying all like you, writer and scientist, which I believe are kind of representative of atheists, and he's saying, why is music important? You all will reply, like, for no reason. It's just there. And he's saying, I doubt that.
Well, a writer, that's an artist. I mean,
well,
that is an extension of art,
that's
though.
the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, but I still think.
I think a scientist could definitely be, a composite character
stereotypically, that would be kind of like
they're definitely
type.
Juxtaposed often. Like faith and science, they're posed as opposites or at odds with each other. But I often think that's not the case.
But I think that the writer is doing art, but he's continually questioning why he's doing it. And I think that's because he doesn't really have any faith. And I think that's Tarkovsky saying it's tough to create art if there's not a reason to. And again, Tarkovsky's reason to creating good art is to get us closer to like Christ almost. I don't know if that like exactly makes sense.
No, that makes sense.
But he's also lost, and he's like trying to find his way, and he's questioning things. But he is closer to believing than the professor. Or the scientist. I definitely think that the scientist is more hesitant.
I think that's a pretty literal interpretation. I don't know if that's exactly what I had envisioned, but I definitely think there's something to the writer like losing his passion for what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't think I don't think the only reason for that is because like he's not a Christian.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what he's saying. Is that a small part of it? Maybe.
For sure, yeah.
I don't know.
definitely.
Maybe that's what he's like trying to say. I think it's kind of close to that. I just think it's so interesting that the Stalker's talking to those two characters, and he says, "You all will reply for no reason, for no one."
there is
Yeah.
nice timing. The movie literally synced up with that.
So basically after all this, they go into what is known as the meat grinder, which is a tunnel. Kind of more hijinks, more arguing, more philosophical discussions. And then they get to what I would call the sand dunes, which is just a breathtaking room.
Yeah.
I mean, this is incredible stuff. I know that a little bit before we started rolling, we were talking about the sand dunes and how they shot this, and like, how do you get a location like this? This looks like a place that doesn't exist.
Yeah, it looks otherworldly.
It really does. And this is where the writer kind of breaks down.
Yes.
And he's like, I'm gonna kill myself. There's no I have no reason to write. I have there's nothing is giving me motivation or encouragement to continue making art. I think that's really interesting.
I also think it's interesting that he goes off on his own, and that's where he falters. You know. But actually, we could talk about that. Both the scientist and the writer stray like from the Stalker in different instances, and
they both struggle.
Yeah.
Which is again like if the Stalker's like a Christ-like figure and it's all a big allegory, that makes a lot of sense. You know, if that's what Tarkovsky's trying to say.
I don't think. Okay, I disagree. I think with your interpretation, as far as like what represents theism and atheism, I think it's more about the strength of faith in general.
It's maybe not like a Christianity thing.
I mean, it could be, or could, you could apply it in a broader context. But I mean,
technically, Tarkovsky was not he was Orthodox.
Yeah, no.
So I mean,
that's still it's Christian. Yeah,
but I just think it's hard for me to think that Tarkovsky would be talking about faith, and it wouldn't be connected with like a religious thinking.
No, I definitely think it is. But I don't. I think he.
They even devour the filth in your soul.
I think that he always views faith with a perspective of like reconciliation being an option, because I think atheism sort of boxes people as like unsalvageable. And I think that the way Tarkovsky poses it is that he's very pessimistic, but the way that I interpreted him,
it's never too
showing
late.
faith is that that they're distanced from the Stalker, but they're never
like too far.
Yes.
Or anything. Yeah. Certainly. Yeah. Definitely.
And so I think it's the degrees of how their faith is tested, and what happens when they choose to go their own way.
And I'm still a little bit confused about the symbolism and stuff, but I don't think that you could say that the Stalker is a Jesus type character.
Again, yeah, I could be convinced that Monkey is a Christ.
Yeah,
Christ
yeah,
figure.
yeah. Because every time that I think that the Stalker is like a Christ-like figure, well, he's breaking down too, dude.
Yeah.
He is.
Well, but
like,
I mean, even like.
I mean, Jesus wept.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, I thought that's what you might say, but it's not as much as Jesus wept and he struggled, but he never questioned his faith.
No, I absolutely do think he did.
I think that. Okay.
I mean, not question like
because I feel like it depends on how far you want to think about the Stalker, but I think that to me the Stalker is struggling to at times to even like believe that like that the room like actually does work and stuff. If that makes sense.
I think the Stalker needs to believe that the room works, but
but does he always? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is interesting.
And so even at that, it sort of poses the Stalker as a figure who seems to be in control, but ultimately isn't 100% certain of what's going on. And so I don't know. Yeah, that
okay, I have this written down on my notes. Sorry. Faith is faith. Without it, man is deprived of any spiritual roots. He is like a blind man. Over time, faith has been given different content. But in the period of a destruction of the faith, what's important to the Stalker is to light a spark, a belief in the hearts of the people.
What's that from?
I think that's just an article.
Oh, okay. Cool.
That could have been Tarkovsky's writing.
Gotcha.
But, okay, so I think we just need to get to like the ending of like when they're in the room. Well, they're not ever in the room.
No, that's the whole point.
Spoilers. But when they're adjacent to the room, and this is where I struggled my first time. I was like, oh, they're like about to walk in it. And then they never do.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so stupid. Why wouldn't they? You
Yeah.
know, and looking back, it's like,
why would they?
No, why would they?
Yeah.
You know, it's like the movie would have not been nearly as good if they had gone in there. I think like the whole movie's building up to like
and I was also wondering that on my first watch. Well, I've only seen it once, but
and
you so badly want them to go in the room because the entire movie is leading up to that, and you're wanting to see what happens, and
I think that it's impossible that the scientist brings a bomb. I don't know if you remember this, but he brings a bomb, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna blow up the room," because his thought is, no one should have access to the room.
Mm-hmm.
This shouldn't be a thing. This is stupid, and people need to like stop believing.
I think it's smart.
And
there shouldn't be a room. That's dangerous, man.
Well, no, it is. I mean, I can kind of see that point of view, but I love that we get these images. We get these images of more underwater objects, and everything's underwater.
Yeah,
and we see money, we see guns, and we see fish, and we see blood, and then we also see the bomb. The Stalker like fights, and the bomb gets thrown into the water. And to me, this is
again under the surface.
The baptism. Of, this is like the water, like the baptismal water, covering all of this like worldly sins and evil and stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know if that makes sense, but and then so they like have an argument, and the Stalker's telling them, all you have to do is believe. You have to have faith to get your desires, to enter the room. You have to believe. He says the main thing is you must believe. Now go. And then they start getting cold feet, and it's like what the heck, like what's going on?
Why doesn't the Stalker enter himself?
See that's a good question. Why do you think?
I don't know if the stalker can bring himself to believe completely.
Yeah, because to our knowledge, the stalker has never been in the room.
No.
He's done this many times, but for some reason, he's never been in the room. Unless we believe that
I think he's
Monkey is a product of the room,
yeah.
which
might be.
they could be. Yeah, I mean that could be true.
But every indication of someone who's gone into the room, their life has led to ruin afterwards.
Yeah, that's what the scientist says. This place evidently won't bring anyone happiness.
You could also,
and if it falls into evil hands, and then he brings out that bomb.
You could also argue that,
which is it. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but
yeah.
it's kind of like that's kind of. I feel like that's Tarkovsky talking about religion.
Yeah.
Like in a lot of ways, faith is good. Like Christianity is good, at least to Tarkovsky. But religion,
the institution of religion,
is dangerous.
Yes,
and if
it's
it falls
divisive,
into evil hands, it can be bad.
And weaponized. Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Great. You know,
I think you could also argue that the stalker doesn't enter because of his selflessness, and because of his faith, he doesn't feel tempted by the desire to enter the room and to get the worldly possessions.
Yeah,
that he's satisfied.
Yeah. There's no reason for him to go in. Yeah. So they fight.
I mean, you could. I mean, I think there's a ton of allegorical ties to this in the Garden of Eden, just everywhere.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Both with how the zone is. It looks like it once was. It's a decaying society, or a decayed society. It's dilapidated. It's uninhabited. But it looks to be like once beautiful, and
the whole zone looks like it was it should have been once beautiful.
Something
but
happened.
Then
there was war.
And
Yeah,
then
the evil of humanity.
You can see guns
it.
in the water, money, drugs, like all that kind of stuff. I love that. The stalker says. He's sitting down and he says, "There's nothing left for people on Earth. This is the only place to come to when all hope is gone." That's what makes me think this is like an otherworldly kind of representation of like a heavenly place almost.
Yeah.
And then the writer like verbally attacks the stalker and he's like everything you're saying is wrong. Like you need to like shut up and stuff. And then the stalker like begins sobbing.
Can you read
breaking down
the quote about the writer asking, or can we go back to the quote about him talking about him not wanting to write? I love that.
Oh yeah. The sand dunes.
Yeah, that's back in the sand dunes.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we're backtracking up a little bit.
I think
I don't want to. I don't know
if
veer
I
us
have
off
that
track,
written down.
but
no, I don't know.
I just remember seeing that and just being floored. You know, as someone.
Oh, dude, I forgot about the
yeah,
crown.
I'm glad we're going back. Yes, okay, this is great. We're gonna screw with the chronology a little bit here, but I think it's for a good reason.
I need to go this is probably on the IMDb quotes.
You know, both as Mason and I pursuing artistic professions. This resonated with me a lot. I don't know if you have it written down, but
okay. So going back a little bit to the sand dunes. Yeah, I don't know how I forgot about this. There's two. We're gonna need to do 2 episodes.
Yeah, Stalker.
There's too much.
Dane DeHaan. Well, sorry. Quick aside, we have the DeHaan poster up. Because it's peak. You got to recognize the peak.
Yep.
I was telling Mason that this could be like our yellow flannel.
For those out there that know that.
Every time we're discussing something of merit, you got to have an actor of merit to support you in your endeavors.
Yeah.
And none other than the Green Goblin.
The great himself.
A Cure for Wellness man.
We haven't even seen it.
I haven't seen it. I've seen the trailer.
I haven't even seen it.
But I don't know. The poster, I mean, the tapestry just makes me happy. And you know what else makes me happy? Stalker. So let's go.
So the writer, he goes off on his own, and he's yelling across these sand dunes to the 2 others, and this is what he says. You put your heart and soul into your work, and they devour you. They even devour the filth in your soul. They're all literate. They have all voracious appetites.
Voracious appetites.
Voracious appetites. They all keep crowding around journalists, editors, critics, a constant stream of women, all of them clamoring for more. What kind of writer am I if I detest writing?
I like that.
Okay, sorry. This is kind of like small.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder I can't read that. It's there's a mistype. If it's torture for me, a painful, shameful occupation, something akin to extruding hemorrhoids.
That's crazy.
I used to think my books helped people to become better, but no one needs me. If I die in a couple of days, they'll find someone else to devour. I wanted to change them, but they've changed me to fit their own image.
And that's it. That's it right there.
Gosh, dang, bro. That really is, and that makes me think of Rublev, where he's talking about like,
false idols and paganism,
and about how they like loved Jesus one day and then they killed him the next.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people are so, just like they're so different day to day and stuff. And
you want to talk about the thorns?
yeah, well, I'm also seeing another quote.
Okay.
The writer, at some point around here, he also says, "Some bastard abuses you, you're hurt. A different bastard praises you, you're hurt." So that's just very interesting.
I told you, man. You could have 7 to 10 wallpapers, screensavers, just based on like Tarkovsky quotes.
But yeah, okay, we're gonna go
jump a few minutes
here.
I forget who puts on the crown though.
Oh, I know who it is.
Oh, it's the Stalker.
No.
Oh, is it the writer?
It's the writer, yeah.
Interesting.
And
no, he just said that. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Wait, we're gonna turn this up. This is not gonna be copyrighted. No, we're not gonna turn it up. We're not gonna turn it up.
Yeah.
I understand you. Difficult job. Okay, so the writer walks out and puts on what looks kind of like a crown of thorns.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he says, "I don't forgive you."
And he says, "I don't forgive you." And the Stalker says, "Don't, please." I mean, he's mocking him. He's just like openly mocking. "I don't forgive you."
Yeah.
So I mean, that is just so interesting.
Yeah.
Then we see more symbolic images.
So much to dissect.
But okay, this is again, he goes, okay, this is an exchange between the writer and Stalker towards the end of the film. "You've brought so many people here, Stalker, not as many as I would like. It doesn't matter. Why did they come? What were they after? Happiness more than anything. Yes, but what kind of happiness? People don't like to reveal their innermost thoughts. Anyway,
That's the subconscious, man.
that concerns neither you nor me. You've been lucky. All my life, I've never seen one happy person." And then the Stalker says, "Nor have I. They return from the room, and I guide them back, and we never meet again. Wishes don't come true immediately, you know," the writer. "And you've never wanted to make use of this room?" And the Stalker says, "I'm fine as I am."
He's content.
He is.
He's content with his fate.
He's content. Yep.
I think that's interesting. Yeah.
And then, that's later on. Never mind. But yeah, I mean, I want to say, like, when they sit down and you know they're not going to go in the room, well, one thing that happens is the writer almost falls into the room, but the Stalker grabs him and pulls him back, which is kind of a sign of respect.
Yeah.
Like, he wouldn't let him fall there because he didn't want to. All three men are sitting with their backs against each other in a circle. They're all distraught. They're all lost. They're all broken. They're all regretful. And then the camera pulls us, the audience, into the room. And then it slowly begins raining. And it's like a super long take. It's like a 10-minute shot. And I think it's interesting that Tarkovsky pulls us into the room and then it rains almost like to like cleanse us or something.
Yeah. He's including us.
I wrote,
the viewer. Yeah.
"We are engaged and slowly pulled into the room, and we can only think about what we, the audience, would do in this situation. We can only think about what we have been as humans and how we should change. What are our innermost desires? What is our truest essence?
Mm-hmm.
And then we see an image of the top of the bomb capsule right by a fish and blood. They're staple symbols of Christ and Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
And then we hear a train sound, and then we cut to sepia.
Really?
And we're
Man.
out of it. So the train sound pulls us back
Yeah.
into the what I wrote as quote normal world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Earth. I guess if this isn't Earth, I mean it's so
Also, it says your most cherished desire will come true here. I think it poses desire as earthly and human and imperfect.
Yep. So then we're back at the pub and everyone's there,
Mm-hmm.
including the stalker's wife and daughter, and also the dog.
Yeah.
Just
Back from the zone.
really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We don't ever see the dog come with them. It's like it's just there. And then we see that Monkey is crippled and she can't walk. And this is probably due to the stalker going into the zone before she was conceived, because he has already like supposedly been like kind of poisoned or something, or like it's kind of this
I've also heard
otherworldly
that, like,
thing. Like she's like a mutant.
You
almost.
could think that he went, well, maybe he went into the room. I know he says he hasn't, but
Well, yeah, that's
maybe
what I was
he
saying.
wished for a daughter, and
And then it was like
she came out with telekinetic powers, but she's
spoiler.
well, sorry.
No, that's fine. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
she's
she
like a
possesses
mutant.
otherworldly abilities, but
Mm-hmm.
she has physical maladies.
So we cut. So before like the final shot, we cut to Monkey's perspective, and it's full color.
Yeah.
And this is not in the zone.
So
Okay, that's what
when we
definitely makes me think that we are in full color when we cut to Monkey's perspective.
when we are in sepia, when we go back to the regular world at the pub with the dog, is that in sepia again?
That's in sepia.
Okay, but then you cut to Monkey and it's full color.
We cut to Monkey and it's in full color.
Interesting.
Let's see this here in a second. Oh, we get this really long shot. I mean, this is just incredible. Sepia.
Yep. So much to think about, man.
Yeah. Boom. It's just a close up of her, and we're in full color. She's on the shoulders of the stalker, but it is framed as if she is walking normally by herself.
Interesting.
Which is, I noticed that. Like that's,
I thought she was walking.
yeah, no, before you didn't see the shot, but she's on the shoulder because she can't walk.
What do
Look
you
at
interpret?
this shot.
What do you interpret, man? Yeah, it looks great. What do you interpret her being on the shoulders of the stalker? Meaning,
That could be anything, dude. That could be her, like, almost being, like, more powerful, or, like, or maybe it's, like, her dependency on other people. I don't know.
I was thinking of it as she's able to exist and operate, and she's given legs in the sense, I don't want to be insensitive at all here, but she's given legs through the stalker, and we
Yeah.
know that he's a person of faith, and
Yeah, maybe that's helping her.
she's also on the shoulders, so the stalker's bearing her weight, you know.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we get this long shot, and then boom,
Milk.
cut back to sepia. Yes, we see milk, and oh no! Oh, no, I clicked the wrong button. Sorry guys, but yeah, we cut back to sepia, and this is the stalker's perspective. He's pouring out milk,
Yeah.
and he gives the milk to the dog, which is just like Tarkovsky symbolism overload. You know, that's his bag right there. And then the stalker lies down on the floor and begins lamenting to his wife, and and this is this is probably my favorite quote.
Yeah, there
But
it
their
is.
capacity for faith is atrophied.
Through lack of use. And before that, he says they don't believe in anything. Their capacity for faith has atrophied through lack of use. And then the
I mean,
and he is devastated here.
I feel like that makes total sense that monkey's on his shoulders though. That's so genius.
Yeah. I think that represents like.
I mean, I could see him as a Christ figure there because he is devastated by the lack of faith with humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think that only further like
monkey is depicted as imperfect through, her inability to walk on her own.
Mm-hmm.
And through the stalker, she's able to walk.
Yeah.
And so, and putting her faith in the stalker who is rooted in faith.
Yeah. And I think that supports the other two characters being some sort of stand-in for unbelievers slash unfaithful slash atheists slash
whatever you want to insert there.
Yeah. I don't want to say like the scientist is an atheist because science is usually associated with atheism. It's not that.
No,
it's way deeper than that.
And there are plenty of faith-based scientists that use science
that's really
strengthen
silly. I don't want to
their arguments for
that.
faith. Mm-hmm.
My God, what kind of people are they? And then the wife says, "Calm down. It isn't their fault.
Yeah.
They should be pitied, not abused. Their eyes are blank." And look at the stuff in the air, dude.
Mm-hmm. You can literally see, like, I don't know if that's the fallout itself, but it looks poisonous.
And then he basically says, "No one believes. Who should I take there? All of my efforts are in vain." He's basically saying
He's given up.
I can't take anyone else there because no one has faith in no one has faith in the world anymore. It's over.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about the final scene with Monkey?
Yeah, before that, I will say that the wife has a monologue where she is directly looking into the camera. Right after this, I don't know if you remember this, but it's.
I don't know.
She's talking about the stalker. Everyone around here used to laugh at him. They made fun of his job, and she didn't argue with him. I was sure I'd be happy with him.
Oh, nobody believes, not even those two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, missed that one.
And then the wife says she has never regretted marrying him. Quote, "It's just fate." That's what she says. And all of this is like fourth wall stuff.
Yeah.
Like, all of my efforts are in vain. And if, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember us watching this and us just being like, "Oh my gosh."
See, I waffle back and forth between thinking like if he's a Christ figure or if he's just
I've done the same thing, dude.
if he represents someone who's strongly rooted in their faith and is, almost having their own faith tested by the lack of faith of their peers and colleagues.
I have this written. This is what my note is for the stalker and what he symbolizes. Christian, has strong beliefs, but is also inherently flawed like all humans. Mm-hmm. All the stalker has is the room. It gives him life. It gives him hope. It gives him joy. It gives him purpose. Quote, "You can't take this away from me." He loves leading people to what gives him joy and purpose, which is Christianity and religion.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a Jesus-like figure?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I've gone back and forth on that.
Yeah.
I will say quickly that the wife in this monologue directly into the camera, she says, "And if there were no sorrow in our lives, it wouldn't be better. It would be worse, because then there would be no happiness."
That's brilliant.
Incredible stuff. And then we cut to Monkey's
Final
perspective.
Scene.
It's in full color. She's reading what looks like the Bible. To me, I
think it is. I think it is a quote. I can't remember though.
It has to. Look, it's got to be the Bible, right?
Look it up.
Zoom in. I have like a word for word, like how the ending is. Woo! It's gonna be a long episode.
Yeah. I don't know.
So it looks like she's reading the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
A poem. I had this in my notes. A poem is recited by a nameless voice.
Okay.
Apparently it's
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. I think it is her.
Apparently it's like her just mentally.
Interesting.
Or maybe she's thinking out loud and you
Yeah.
can hear it because she's
Has telekinetic powers. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So she tilts her head and begins moving a glass telepathically.
Well, it's the same thing. It's like the
That's what I
beginning.
believe. It's very like the beginning, yeah.
The glass moves. We hear a train, but we just watched this before we started recording the episode. To my eyes, and I'm not going to tell you what to think. The glass starts moving before I hear the train.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is not a question of
And
like
2 or 3 glasses get moved. Like
this
it's not
could
just
be
one.
like
Yeah.
one or. There's people that have said Tarkovsky specifically wanted you to think that she had telepathic powers. I think people have read into it maybe a little much and have said maybe like if you don't think she's moving it, then like you don't have faith.
Yeah.
I don't really subscribe
That's kind of
to
black
that.
and white. Yeah, it's not a.
I love that she starts moving the glasses though, and the dog begins to bark and whimper, and then she moves like all 3. And then the train sounds start to come, and then the glass falls off the table. One of the glasses falls off the table and breaks.
And they all have different amounts of liquid, and the one that falls off is completely empty.
And they're all different heights, which we can assume they represent the 3 main characters. And then we hear wire sounds from the zone, though.
Yeah.
The house begins to shake as we hear train noises. We zoom in on Monkey. Ode to Joy begins to cut in and out. Fade to black. Movie in.
Yeah.
I mean, this is incredible stuff. I don't want to glaze, but
No, yeah.
this is the art form cannot get any better than this. It can't.
Yeah. This is
Not
among the
to
best
me, at least.
this is among the best that movies have to offer.
Where do you? We did this in the last one, so we'll do this again. Where do you rank this in Tarkovsky's filmography?
I'll say it again. 2 or 3.
Okay. Is it this or Rublev?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got to be 1 for me.
I don't know. I might give the edge to Rublev, but this is.
Oh, come on, bro.
I don't know, man. This is great.
I just think
Great No, this is.
I think that from a technical perspective, this carries it over.
There's
just
more
a
to
little
chew
bit.
on with this. So I think this is 2. I think this is 2. Because Rublev's great, but like if you're talking thematic, and there's so much to just dissect and sort of pick apart Tarkovsky's brain with this.
Well, see,
even though
that's
there's a lot to do
it's
with
it's
Andrei Rublev.
but
it's
that's
still-
more segmented and
It's still kind of
more historical.
Yeah,
This
it's linear.
it's funny because this we were like, well, this is so easy to describe the plot's like in 1 sentence. Well, that gives him leeway to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it's just everything's a symbol, everything's an allegory, like the whole thing's an allegory. Everything has like 2 or 3 meanings. So yeah, it's a lot. Wait, so does that mean where do you have Mirror? 4?
See, I don't know if I had to rewatch Mirror, I might. I don't know if Rublev would come down, but like, Mirror's so good.
Yeah, Mirror's great.
Just from a visionary standpoint, like conceiving Mirror in your head and being like, "This is how I'm going to structure my movie." Like, how do you do that?
Unbelievable.
How do you do that?
Unbelievable. And dude,
We'll
you
talk
haven't even seen Solaris. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Like that. Now, in my head, I usually think of the big 4 and then the other 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So the big 4 would be Rublev, Mirror, this, Sacrifice. Then the other 3 are Solaris, Nostalgia, and Ivan's. But those other 3 are still amazing.
Yeah.
And Solaris and Nostalgia could be in the conversation of like maybe maybe Solaris is better than Mirror. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Nostalgia's pretty good too.
Exactly. And I feel like I don't think about Nostalgia that much. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. It's
Like-
definitely flawed.
There's a few things I think it's a little long, and we'll get to
Agreed.
that
Yeah.
later.
In the end-
Is it still a 10 though? It might still be
Yeah,
a 10.
it meanders, but it's so good. That final act is
Yeah.
incredible.
Yes.
I mean, as you know, all final acts with Tarkovsky are, but
Yeah. We just did the GOAT episode.
number 23, an hour and 30 minutes. Goodness,
Woo! All right, well,
I'm sure you're tired of us yapping.
hopefully y'all enjoyed this. Again, if anyone made it this far.
Hopefully, more people have seen Stalker,
Bro,
or you know, maybe some more people will be inspired to watch Tarkovsky because we're doing this. Hopefully, because you know what, I feel like,
do not watch it at night.
yeah, watch it.
It's
yeah.
part of the charm if you fall asleep, you know.
Mhm.
It's one of those
No.
movies where it's like, it's fine if you do.
But I do think everybody's better off watching his films because he's very thoughtful, and I think his commentary on art and his just what he did as an artist is
I mean, yeah, and
pretty
as
spectacular.
as like a person of faith, it's very, you know, we haven't really talked about this. It's very special, and it speaks to me. I don't really know why we were watching like God's Not Dead in church instead of this. Seriously, I don't want to be that guy, but
Yeah.
like, I mean, this stuff exists. I didn't know anything like this existed.
There's also not big corporations behind like
I-
the. Do you know what I mean? It's just one guy.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's not, and it doesn't really feel like he's hammering a message home, or he's
No.
like, these people are good, these people are bad.
It's
just
authentic.
so,
and yeah.
and I didn't know that I didn't know that there could be a director that was this talented and this incredible, that like shares a lot of the thoughts that I do, at least. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's cool that, you know, that he was Orthodox, and he's probably like the best director ever. So that's always cool.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts?
No,
Cool.
it's a goat.
Up next, maybe Mir, maybe Solaris. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll keep you posted.
Keep an eye out for Mulholland Drive episode.
Yeah, hopefully sometime next week.
Let's go.
We watched that Friday. And blew my socks off. So
Which is,
I'm itching to talk about that. Yeah.
He goes.
Um,
He goes. It'd be best if you just left and forgot about it.
yeah. Guest appearance from Billy Ray Cyrus. We'll have him in the burrow. So
I'm calling him
getting
up.
it, pulling it up. Yeah.
You know, I'm he hasn't responded yet. So,
Yeah.
You know.
He's a hard
All
man
right.
to reach, but you know what? I'm sure he'll oblige. So we got that down the pipeline. Can't wait for Bergman Wednesdays, the sister series to this. We'll do his top
gosh,
five.
dude.
We'll do his top five. But no, we need to do a
Dude, I
Bergman
would
episode at
actually
some
die,
point.
dude.
Yeah.
Dude, he's got like 80 films.
Yeah. I know.
Also, just, like, imagine doing this, and then the next day it's like 7 Seal. That's like too much.
It makes my head hurt.
Oh, dude, like this, and then like imagine having to
Okay.
talk about Autumn Sonata right after this.
Okay. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe after Mulholland Drive, we need to do a draft or something like very accessible. Because, yeah. All right.
Yeah, we'll get that out to you all. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone's listening at this
No,
point.
no. We're just rambling. Okay.
All right. Hit him. No, that's you.
Me? Okay.
That's you.
Roll that outro music.